Welcome to the In Search of More podcast. I am your host, Eli Nash. Join me weekly on my quest for more from myself and more from this world. We'll see you on the other side. All right, welcome Rav Avshi.
Shalom Aleichem.
I'm sitting here with Rav Avshi Weingot from the holy city of Tzfaz. So I asked you earlier about the Ramak. Quickly, I'll tell you what my interest is in the Ramak. First of all, I just had a daughter a couple of weeks ago, and I was inspired to name her. She has three names. One of her names is Dvorah. And I'm not sure where it popped in my head, but I think it popped in from Torah Dvorah because I was learning Torah Dvorah. But I'll bring you back a little bit. So at the House of More, which you're going to be at this evening, when it originally started was just this idea that I have to use this home for in service of, and I didn't know what that meant. It just was very clear to me that the home was there to be used. I bought it originally as a business investment because I liked the area. And it was clear that it was meant to be a spiritual investment, but I didn't know how. About 6 months into using it for different events, we had a guy, his name is Moshe Porad, who said to me, he's planning to move to this area. We have to build a shul here. So I said, I have the space. If the space is there, if you want to build a shul. Very quickly, Sfarim started showing up, and now we have a minyan. We have a rabbi, Rabbi Avi Wolf, his wife Leah. They run the shul. And a family member reached out to me when he heard I was starting the shul, and he said, a few years ago, I commissioned a Sefer Torah for the Ramak. I don't know his connection to Ramak. I don't know anything. And he wants to donate it to the House of More.
Wow. Okay,
so you'll be there today. The Sefer Torah, which is there, was written for the Ramak. So one, it can be pure coincidence, right? The second is there's some deep connection between the Ramak and myself or these efforts. So, in an attempt to understand who he is better, and you're from the city, I'd love to understand who the Ramak is.
Wow.
Big question.
The Moshe Cordovero, the unfolding of Kabbalah and mysticism, and the Zohar Kadosh was written by Reb Shimon Bar Yochai during the right after the time of the second Chuba of the second Beis Hamikdash, the destruction of the second Beis Hamikdash, and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai reached unbelievable levels in becoming by running into the cave. He ran to the cave for 13 years, and over there Eliyahu Navi was teaching him Torah. And even though Kabbalah is handed down, Moshe Kibel Torah Sinai, that's Kabbalah. The mystical and hidden parts of the Torah were spoken about in very interesting ways. Like before Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, they would speak about the Sfirot, about the arrangement of the Ishtalshalut, of how Hashem runs the world. They would speak about it like animals, like you'd say, like if you see a lion, that means you see Chesed. If you see an ox, you see Gevurah. They knew what everything meant. Reb Shimon Bar Yochai was able to, through his Kedusha and through his love to Am Yisrael, he understood that Am Yisrael is going right now to a very deep galut. And therefore, through his davenings to Hashem, he was able to bring down the Sefer HaZohar, which is the basic textbook of Kabbalah. This Sefer HaZohar was brought down, and he said it's not going to be brought down from our generation. It's going to be brought down for the generation of Mashiach. B'hai Sefer HaZohar, yipkun be min galuta berachameh. It says in the Zohar, with this Zohar, Am Yisrael will leave the galut with rachamim. So the Zohar was really hidden for many, many years, and it was revealed about 500 years ago. That's when really I'm not getting into the historical parts of it, but the Ramak was one of the greatest that started writing a Pirush on the Zohar. There's a Pirush on the Zohar called Or Yakar. I don't know if you have it, but it's a Gevard Zohar edition to own. It's big red books, and it's like a whole Shas. It's like a Shas set.
The Ramak wrote that.
Yeah, Or Yakar. It's Gevard. And as a matter of fact, I got introduced to it through the Leshem. Jumping around a little bit.
Yeah.
But the Leshem is later Mekubal, and he quotes the Ramak a lot. The Leshem went on great expansion in different Kabbalistic areas that no one spoke about. And he wrote very expansive writings on these things, and he quotes the Ramak and I realized I have to learn the Ramak then. So I started learning the Ramak, and I was like mamish into him. You were mentioning, naming your daughter. My youngest are twins. I have twins, Momo and Ayala.
Right.
And Moshe, I named him after the Ramak. So, so you got the Dvorah, but it's such a deep influence that I'm like, wow, I want to, invite this tzaddik into our life. So the Ramak was from the beginners of the translators of the Zohar and writing, because the Zohar itself is written as a very cryptic, very secret book. Even the Zohar itself, as Rabbi Abba is writing it, Rabbi Shimon was talking and Rabbi Abba was writing, and at one point he tells him, like, who are you writing this for? Like, you're writing things in such code. Like, even our generation's not getting it. So I'm writing this for the later generations. They're going to need this. They're going to get it. And the Ramak started writing this Pirush on the Zohar.
Were there ones before the Ramak that wrote Pirush on the Zohar? This was the first one.
That era was Reb Chaim Vital was writing a Pirush on the Zohar, but I don't think so. I'm not like such an historic scholar.
Got it, understood.
More, but I'm sure there's more out there. So that was the Or Yakar that he wrote. And besides that, he wrote a sefer called the Elima. Elima is a thick sefer. And the last chapter of Elima is Tomer Dvorah. It's actually just a chapter in the book, which is the final chapter, which summarizes, it's a certain summary of, everything that we learned about godliness. Godliness is not only out there in the Sfirot, in the Partzufim, and the Olamot, like it's not there to confuse you. It's actually all in here. Because one of the deep understandings in Kabbalah, and the Zohar brings it down, there's Adam is Olam Katan. Every human being is a miniature world. And the Ramak over there, in Tomer Dvorah is, you learn it's about how to resemble God, how to embody the ultimate.
How to be a man.
Man, or I call it superhuman, or a better godly for a mensch, or a gevald. So I was totally fascinated by the Ramak, by his explanation. Later on, I even saw that Tzaddikim wrote that different people that get into Kabbalah, through the Kabbalah of the Ari, they get confused, because that's like a stage 2, really. Really, stage 1 of understanding Kabbalah really is Ramak. And even understanding the Derech of the Baal Shem Tov really is more based on the thinking of the Ramak. It's less, you see, like Talmidei Baal Shem Tov were not big mechavnim. They didn't, we weren't so much into the Kavanas. They were more into the Pnimius. The Ramak was very, very Pnimi, very, he brought down these things brought down Kabbalah in a very understandable, relatable way.
The Talmud Torah itself is very practical.
Super practical. Are
all his writings like that?
So when you're dealing with Kabbalah, with understanding things in the sky, as practical as you're going to get, you're still going to be pretty dehaiben, pretty like lofty. But he's very explaining things. His writing is like the writing of the Rishonim. Like every word you could medayak in, and it's golden words. There's no extra word or no word that could. It's like everything is exact.
Yeah, and not that you know too much, but sometimes when you touch something at first, you know more about it than when you get to further in. Is there an obvious connection you see between the Ramak and, say, I don't know, what you understand this work to be, In Search of More, The House of More, without knowing too much, but...
I was talking about In Search for More. For me, that's like a Gevalt line, because if you're searching for more, that's a good direction to be on. And our generation, I grew up in Tzfat, so people are like coming to Tzfat, looking for Kabbalah. What are people looking for Kabbalah? Like hippies with dreadlocks coming with their backpacks looking for Kabbalah. They're looking for more. They understand that it can't just be what we see. There must be a deeper meaning to life, a rhyme and a reason of why do I have an animal soul? Not only what is my animal soul, but why do I have it? And what's the elevated purpose of it? It's not just to get rid of it. There's actually something about this. Life is a journey of becoming, a transformation. And the deep, I believe that's one of the deep kavanas of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai is that this generation is going to search for more, and is going to search for deeper meaning. And he was here to provide the more, and to provide the secret. It's not just about knowing all the halacha and having we have the bookshelf today is more developed than ever, but that's not the issue. issue is like, where are we going with all this? What's the, you could have so many words, but where's the music? There must be like a unifying factor and a rhyme and a reason why this is. And that's really the depth of Kabbalah is called ta'amim, reasons. And tam is also reason, and it's also flavor. When you know something, when you have a reason for something, it's kashmak, it tastes good. So I believe that that's really the necessity of learning of Kabbalah and understanding that there's much more than when we're seeing in the halacha and we're seeing in the external. There's something worth being excited about. There's something worth being living. Yeah.
And for someone who's, let's say, not steeped, but they attempted to steep me into Chabad Hasidus, someone attempted to. So what would be the benefit of going up a few rungs, past the Baal Shem Tov and to the Ramak, for someone who has heard a lot of Chabad ideas?
I think as you backtrack in source, you get more pure. The expansion has definitely, explains more. But as you go back, like I said, the language of the Ramak, it's golden. It's like the language of the Rishonim. It's so holy. I find Rosh Tevis in his words like I would find Rosh Tevis in Psukim. Like they were writing with Malachim and with Shemus and with Kedusha Eliyaina. The Talmud V'Vad is no replacement for that sefer. I mean, it's like look at just the first line. Adam ra'ui shidameh lekono. Like right. Just like that mission statement is like, so how many times I go back to that mission statement that reminds me of who am I and what's the purpose of all this. You remember, right. Yeah.
The retreats I mentioned, the men's retreats we do a few times a year, we call it Adama.
Adama.
Yeah. The reasons were we do Adama because we do a lot of breath work on it. So and then Adam, man, and then nature, and then also I had the also Adam al Elyon, right? Like also that idea as well was thrown out there. But I think when we promote it, we just say man, breath, nature, not the other part.
Ha-Adam. He starts with Ha-Adam. Like, it's not just, Adam is not just, being in a body. There's an elevated form that we're meant to embody of a likus. You're right, the Tanya wrote the Sefer to teach people a Maisa, like, to break it down. You have an Nefesh Bahamas. But over there, he's pretty much bringing down Rav Chaim Vital and Ari and these elevated teachings to teach us about that life is not just simple.
I asked this question to someone last week who I interviewed. I asked him the English translation for the word rachamim. Do you know which word? Is it more mercy, more compassion?
I mean, words in English it's interesting for me. Americans have all kinds of like fancy words for all kinds of terms, but Lashon HaKodesh is Lashon HaKodesh. There's really something, there's no gematria, for example, in English. Right. No Rosh Tevis in English. Right. There's no other dimension. The Gemara says that when they translated the Torah to Greek, the world went dark. It was a disaster. You think, why? You're translating it, you're spreading it, but now you're taking it out from that term. Midot shel rachamim. It's not just compassion. It's compassion. It's all the good words fit into rachamim. Compassion, mercy, patience, savlanut. Savlanut is one of his main themes.
Right. I got through, I'm early in it, but I think like the first 5 or 6, he breaks down the 13 attributes.
Yeah.
Right. So the first 5 or 6. So it's interesting. It's deep. It's confronting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very confronting.
It's confronting. Also, I actually gave a shir to women about this, and I was actually excited. Like women my mother's age, like It's not just like guys that you could just talk and schmooze. Like the people are like looking at you with like super sober, realistic, and then talking about these, interrelationship kind of deals. Like you're supposed to deal with this guy that way. Like this guy did something to you, and like, be like extra merciful to him. And I realized that if I look at life as a journey of me going from my starting point is animalistic, and our our goal is to become godly, to become mamash eloki. So every human relationship, or when is it that I have to be merciful? It's when things don't go my way, when someone's bothering me, when someone's hurting me, when someone's, if you're a friend of mine, if you're my friend, we love each other. Like loving you is really loving myself.
Right. Mercy never comes into the interaction.
Right. So when am I forced to go deep and reveal these hidden qualities that are in me and actualize them? It's usually going to be the difficulties in our life, the challenging relationships where my animal soul wants to just, burn the guy and just like answer and scream back and say, well, life is a journey. I'm here to become a god. We're here to mamish become ha'adam. Not, and it's really the Baal Shem Tov speaks about a human being that's unaware of his animalistic self is like you can't even start healing because you think you're ganz good, you think you're okay. The starting point is really embracing the ugliness of the animal that we are.
Yeah, who told me this? I don't know if you know Baruch Gardner. He said the Rosh Tevis, I never did it, but that's right, the gematria of Mashiach is Ani Lo Beseder.
Ani Lo Beseder,
I sound like a
Melech HaMashiach. That's Yehuda David Sandik, and one of the holy brothers that runs around Borough Park. That's his Torah.
That what?
Ani Lo Beseder is Melech HaMashiach. He's like a but I don't know if you know him. If you were one of the characters of Borough Park, yeah.
No, I don't know. But I feel like it's one of the, it's one of the main messages I'm fighting against is the minimization of pain, the minimization of struggle. I think it's one of the main ideas I'm trying to push back against, because we could become very tolerant of things that are not okay to the point that we say it's okay.
Actually, that's the beautiful Sfas Emes when he speaks about Geulat Mitzrayim, leaving Mitzrayim, which is really our Geula that we're waiting for. Is going to be the most compared to the Geulah of Mitzrayim. And the Achris is going to be like the Rashis. And following, carefully the development of the Geulah of Mitzrayim, So one of the stages in Geulah Mitzrayim, as Hashem says, I'm going to take you from the Sivlos Mitzrayim. So Sivlos could be, pain and nisbol. But this Sfas Emes says that, a person could be in a negative relationship and they could bear it. They could bear it. And at one point, they just can't bear it.
Right.
And that's the beginning. That rock bottom is actually the beginning of, it's like, I can't carry this. Like a sabal is a carrier. Like, a guy's carrying a big weight on him, or a refrigerator on him. It's just, it's heavy. But at one point, they say, I'm not carrying the weight of this anymore. Like, I want something different. And that causes a veizaku, this the deep cry. But as long as you're okay with it, then you're not crying out.
Right. Okay, so I think more people suggested that we sit down than any other guest I've sat down with. In a short period of time, I guess people knew you were in town, and a lot of people messaged me at the same time. One of the things that struck me in the bio I was reading was that you speak to the modern challenges, I'm using my words, but the challenges that today's youth face. So how would you characterize today's youth, the struggle, in a way that's distinct maybe from 20, 30, or 50 years ago? The youth of today, what's the struggle? So it captured me. What spoke to me was the fact that you attempt to speak to them, or you manage to speak to them. You reach.
Well, I don't look at them as them. I look at it as me.
Good.
I was a lost teenager, and I was, speaking to people and getting the right things, where people weren't talking to me or not talking to me about these things. I don't look at youth as youth. I look at youth as I look at my guys in yeshiva as leaders, as I even tell people, your kid is not little. He's just a little person, man. Like, just wait a minute or two. He's going to be big. These are people are big. They're just we start off in small bodies. We start off, and, but it's giving that kavod to Hashem. It's not giving the kavod even to you, to the Creator. And giving the kavod to the design of man. This is how Hashem is bringing forth. Every great person was once in diapers. Like it's okay. Like this is how we start. But if you treat him like he's a baby, he's not a baby. So understanding that the struggles are from Hashem, and they're the Geula is coming, the light is coming. I got lost a little bit.
So, I know in the like every once in a while I'll learn a sikh of the Rebbe, and a number of times I came across him speaking positively about a generation, I guess in the 60s or 70s, that many weren't fond of, or many leaders weren't fond of. But he spoke about them in very glowing terms, and he said, "No, there's actually some tremendous holiness in this, whatever's going on here."
Right.
And I wonder if today's generation would be considered different than that one. Like in 2020 is different than 1970s.
Is happening, and our youth is, there are institutions and ways of thinking that kind of like held us together till today. That we're meant to move on. We're meant to develop onward. There's a certain evolution that we're meant to evolve, and I think part of our pain is like, I'm trying, to people just being stuck with, systems of this is how it is. And there's really no way of this is how it is. There's an organic way of there's something more. We can't just be content with the way things were till today. There's Hashem wants us to grow more and to get things deeper and to understand things deeper and to become better. And the youth is spearheading this fight against, the brave kids that break out of institutions that find me in Tzfat. These are kids that feel like, it's not just classroom and it's not just the system. There's something deeper here. There's a silent question, and I'm respecting that question because I understand that Am Yisrael is a becoming, is unfolding, is evolving. I look at this process as a holy process of getting better, of finding a deeper truth.
So you see, just to parrot back your words, but you see a lot of that of people pushing up against the infrastructures, the systems, the institutions, and saying we need.
I think the systems and the institutions are holy and they're amazing and they're sacred, and that's what works. But there's deeper. There's demand for more. For deeper, for more real, and the kids that come to me are the most creative, are artistic, are thinking out of the box. They're refusing to just settle for like, okay, do this because you're doing this, and that's what we're doing. So if it was good enough for my parents to just do what they did because that's what they did, it's okay. But in the younger generation that's born, there's as if they're like, a baby learns Torah in his mother's womb. So what Torah do you learn? You learn the Torah that you're going to have to know throughout your life. Our kids, when they're born, are learning much more advanced Torah because they're learning the Torah of the future. Like we learned the Torah of the time of our era. They're learning the Torah that they're going to have to learn in their life.
Oh, you're saying, okay, interesting.
So the kids actually have like the more advanced, like look at technology. Like I could look at my phone. My kids already are much better than me in all technology.
So you're saying the Torah that they learned in the womb was likely different than the Torah that...
It's more different. I think it's a much more advanced.
Interesting. I'll tell you something that I've noticed. It's interesting. Just from, let's say, the difference, I'm almost 40, and meeting, let's say, kids in their 20s today, and the difference that I've seen. So amongst my age, when I find someone struggling, I usually find a traumatic event in their childhood. As a rule, there's abuse, there's divorce, there's something that's happened, and that was always a frame of mind that I had. That if someone is really struggling, then they probably went through trauma in their youth. And now I'm meeting a whole different class of people. They have all the same signs, but there's no obvious signs of struggle. There's like an existential angst.
You're describing myself.
Okay.
Like I, Baruch Hashem, had a good childhood. I mean, I went to, Ger and Hasidic places with Baruch Hashem. And for me, it was like from the moment I was born, I knew there was something more. For me, the turn off to the system was like, how you guys just happy with this? I knew it was beyond words. I knew there was, yeah.
So speak to that a little bit. I'll tell you why I think it's important, because I find a lot of people who, when they can't point it back to a story, so if they have the struggle, but they don't have the story, then they think there's something wrong with them, because there's something doubly wrong with them. Like, yeah, I don't even have a story, so why do I feel, why do I feel this way? So, and in the process, they block themselves from giving themselves permission to feel the struggle that they're in, saying they don't deserve to, they shouldn't, they blame themselves in some way. So I don't know if that was part of your experience, but I've heard it too many times not to mention it. You know what I mean by that, right?
Yeah, I mean, so when I was going through my struggle, it was like no one spoke about these things. So I didn't even know I was having a struggle. It was like my issues.
How did it present itself on the outside?
Being kicked out of yeshiva. For just not being interested. I remember my father told me, I went till 8th grade. I went to Cheder, Baruch Hashem. I got, kicked out a couple of times, but I made it through till the end. But my father told me once he met my Manal.
And you grew up where? In Tzfas?
I grew up in Tzfas.
You grew up in Tzfas.
I learned in Ger, in Chatzol.
Got it.
And he met my Manal, and he asked him, like, how's he doing? So my Manal said, listen, he gets 100 on all his tests, but I have no idea where he is. Like, I guess, they saw me from the outside. And I look at that as, it's a blessing. It's not just, it's a shlichus. It's a shlichus. People go on a shlichus to faraway lands, and people go on to shlichus into, like the neshamas, into future places. And sometimes it's, to be the first shliach in a place is hard. You have to come to the place and build the place. And afterwards people come and it's all nice and beautiful.
Right.
But, we're talking about off the derech. We're talking about off-roading. Off-roading, yes. The first guy to go off-roading is like, with the machete cutting down the trees and,
Yes.
And then after that, people go, but there's... But today I look at it as there is a lot of trauma. There's a lot of pain. I know a lot of my guys that come to me are from the Hasidic world, and there's stories that, unbelievable. But it's not only. It's... like a person could be very normal and healthy and nothing happened to them, quote unquote.
Yes.
And they're feeling inside that there's something deeper, that I want more, 100%.
And how do you explain that?
Because that's the Torah that they learned. That's the truth. The truth is that we can't just stay with doing things because we do them. Hashem wants us to understand things and to do things from excitement, from within, do things with joy, or to do things with reason.
So if they're finding an answer or an experience that comforts them when they sit with you, what are you offering them that they're not receiving at home? Because the Torah is the same. Right? Maybe you're teaching different things, but what is different? What are you saying differently? Well,
first of all, just embracing the search. That you're okay. You're okay for searching. You're not a weirdo for searching. If you're searching, then that's good. Knowing that you're not alone in the search, and that the search is Hashem's mission to you. And then we talk about, what it is that you want, and you realize that what you want is not to go off the derech. You're searching for a derech. You're searching for your derech. You're searching for your meaning in your derech.
So let's quantify it a little bit, because when you say searching, what you mean potentially is moving away from practice of Judaism? Is that what you mean by?
That's how the world would look at it. Like a
Yes.
guy's, like he used to be from and now he's not from.
Right.
But like, okay, that's on the outside, right? You're right. The guy cut off his payas, he threw off his jacket, he threw off his yarmulke. Okay, but okay, let me talk to the guy. What do you want? You want out or you want in? They want in. They want in sheba in.
Right.
And they're saying that people around me that look like they're in, they're not in. And the system around me that was, talking about in, to my standards, they're not in. So they're coming from like a higher standard, and like where's that higher standard? That's like in their genes, it's in their essence, in their neshama, and they're here to forward the world in that search.
So let's break that down a little bit. So you have someone, maybe it's in your personal experience. So it sounds like your father was someone who did some searching as well.
My father, yeah, 100%. I mean, my father went to Chaim Berlin. He was actually kicked out of Chaim Berlin. He told me Rav Hutner called him into the office. He said, "You have very nice teeth, but you got to leave the yeshiva." Gave him a compliment. And Rav Shlomo Freifeld, Alav Shalom, my father's Rebbe, he was his Rebbe then. He took him and another boy that was thrown out of Ner Yisrael, and he started a yeshiva called Shar Yashav, very special yeshiva. And my father was always, even at home, the Torahs that we were learning were Rav Tzadok HaKohen and Sfas Emes, which are very, yes, they're Hasidish, but they're very big thinkers and very universal. And he moved to Tzfat. Like that itself is,
Right.
out of the box move.
From America.
From New York, yeah. You moved to Tzfat in the 70s, the late 70s, there was nothing there. Like mamish nothing.
So even having had a model of the search wasn't, like in your case, when you started searching, the search was embraced, or the search was?
No, it was not embraced, because we're different. Me and my father are different. I love him so much. Hashem yarich hamav batov, shnotav b'neimim. It's a tremendous inspiration to me. But no, the beginning of the search was head to head, very strong. I didn't know what I was thinking. I just wanted, remember even when I started, finding myself and coming back at age 21, I remember just sitting with, certain rabbis that like just embraced me, and we just sat on the couch and spoke for hours, like just trying to figure out I knew that I wanted good. I didn't want out. I wanted something real that resonated with my full being. I wanted to have fun. Really, really, that was the thing.
You felt like it wasn't fun?
No, I didn't feel like it wasn't fun. It just wasn't
fun.
I knew, like, somehow I knew in my essence that
it was supposed
the
to
good
be.
has to be fun. Like, yeah.
Right. I think the word fun scares a lot of people.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get it. It could be like party, childish fun.
Yes.
But, if you look at the Ramchal, when it starts, Adam nivra litaneg al Hashem. The man is created to rejoice and to get pleasure and joy. So we may find the semantics. You want to find
Yes.
a more sophisticated word for fun. I'm sure there's many. But I think fun is a very good word.
Right. I think people
I still like having fun.
No, I get it. I get it. It's a lot of my own medicine, because I think sometimes I'm a little bit too serious. But like from a very young age, I started working. Like at 19, 20 years old, I had a business, and I like took a certain responsibility. And I feel like certainly a lot of medicine experiences that I've had have been like, you got to play more, you got to play more, you got to play more. And I remember thinking once, how, like, I don't know where the idea came from, but like the Rebbe and his sichos was playing. Like other stuff, like maybe a mimer was serious, but obviously they're both serious. But you know what I mean? Like there was something about it that like the essence of who he is comes out. Was like, it felt like playful in some way. And this idea that there's room for the essence in the play.
David writes us in Tehillim. Lule tarascha sha'ashuai, az avadati ba'ani.
Which is?
If your Torah is not my sha'ashua, my joy, my playfulness, I'll be lost in my own poverty. A person has, Torah is joy. It's oneg, it's pleasure.
Got it. So, but you came back pretty quickly, right? You left and returned relatively fast.
I
So by
guess
2021.
by 21, yeah, I got smacked in. I got Hashem, opened up the curtain and he showed me that he exists, and that's it. Once I knew there was Hashem in the world, it was just
Okay, so it went there. It went to the point of wondering whether.
yeah. For me, it was like
exists.
there's God. I sometimes see this by like more like Ashkenazi Sephardi way of thinking. Like a Sephardi guy, like they have Emunah, like Chamsa Ishtabach Shemo, everything okay, but like not always connected to doing mitzvahs.
Right.
The Ashkenazi guy is like a kaifer. He'll sit and argue with you, but the second he knows it's Hashem, that's it. Like he understands it. There's meaning. This means something. I gotta change my behavior.
Right. Interesting. I guess I have both in me because I'm a half. So that's interesting that despite the fact that your father went on the search, when you went on the search, it was met head to head.
Well, I took the search to a whole nother level. And it's funny to tell you, like me and my father were very close. And even my father was in New York years ago. After I came back, I was in yeshiva. It was 2006. And they called him to speak to a group of kids that Nebuch, one of their friends, committed suicide. And he walked into this house of like 60 kids. Their friend just jumped off the third story, and he called me up. He's like, I have no idea what to tell these kids. Come down to New York. So and just like there's the search. His obviously we're midgets standing on shoulders of giants in all senses.
Right.
But my father's openness and his attitude to his acceptance, his openness to people was also revolutionary in his era. And I guess Hashem knows who to be born to whom. For me, it's like the next stage.
So, and what brought you back?
I mean, the awareness that brought me back is just the second I realized there's a creator to the world and that this world is a journey. And that all the mitzvot and all the Torah, everything is just details of this becoming, and understanding that it's a journey within me. For me, that was enough to embrace the package, so to speak, of like all the details, like sign the bottom. You're like, what am I signing? Like, we read it, I didn't read it. But the second I understood that there's a creator to the world and there's a reason for everything, and it wasn't just an understanding. Like
Experience.
I had an experience, yeah.
You've used the word becoming a few times. What do you mean by that?
One of my favorite lines is from Rabbi David Aaron. I read from him once. He said, "We're not human beings; we're human becomings." And for me, that's a really strong line that I, try to live by. And viewing myself as a becoming gives me perspective in my journey within. Starting off as an animal soul, understanding the wrong in me, the evil in me, the crooked in me, the animal in me. It's not a negative place that I'm looking to, pretend like it's not there, or I understand that it has its place that's the departure point of my journey. And like Tomer Dvorah would be like the destination, and then understanding that I'm going from animal to human, from animal to God, puts things in perspective. Puts human everything in perspective. I'm here. The journey is in me. It's in becoming. So if something's happening to me, if something negative is happening, or a hard, difficult relationship, it's not out there. It's not about pointing fingers and saying this. It's like, okay, I'm on a journey. I'm going from, every human being is going from Behema to Adam, and where is these circumstances, where is this taking me forward? So becoming is really, it's a constant way of viewing myself.
So let me put it in some of my language and tell me if it matches, because in my case, I found God in the 12 steps, right? That's, I left yeshiva, and the first time I was forced to articulate my point of view around God, I think it sounded like, I'm not sure he exists, but if he does, I hate him. And through the 12 steps, I found a personal relationship with a God. And it's taken a while till that's like manifested itself through a Jewish God. There were two separate things. It was just God in and of itself and a personal relationship. And what I think spoke to me was, this is the way I framed it. I said, like, there's two ways of viewing the world. One is it's random, right? What's happening is random. And the other is that there's some orchestrator of what's going on. And for someone who's experiencing a lot of pain or suffering, to believe that it's random, like, how does one overcome that? It's like, wow, I got this, like, it was random, and I ended up with this terrible lot, so to speak, at least the way it feels. Comparing oneself to someone else without knowing their whole story seems like even more, they got a good lot, I got a bad lot. And if it's just random, then you can sit and, like, you can spin on that idea for lifetimes, right? And not overcome. And then the thought was, okay, but if I am suffering in this way, then the only way out is to believe that there's something who's orchestrating this on my behalf or with some greater purpose. And if I buy into that perspective, then I may find some relief. Is this what you mean in that way when you say this idea of becoming, that idea of becoming gave you some peace, like, as opposed to it being a random set of events?
Absolutely, yeah. Everything is, in Ashgacha Pratis, I understand that everything is orchestrated by one. Gam zu l'taiva, zu is one. Everything is one. And life is a story of good. It's Hashem is good. The creator of life is good. The purpose of creation is good. And the design of creation is this journey where man is, in Chabad, it's like the most popular lingo. Like, Yerida zu tzarech aliyah.
Yes.
And going down to the Olam HaSatachtainim, and like, why? Why are you dropping your kid into Olam HaSatachtainim? What are you doing to him? And saying that only from that place, there's no other way. Right? It's Kedai. Kozo Kedai. There's no other way for us to get to our level of litaneg Hashem, of coming panim bepanim with Hashem, only from being in an animal soul, in a guf, in a gashmi, in a chaimer, and from there, and really embracing that this is the holy design of things. It's like, okay, first of all, I'm normal, and not only this is how man is, and getting it is like life makes sense, things make sense.
Do you find that a lot of people who come to you that are searching are struggling with the fact that they're searching, or they've embraced their searching?
No, it's very common for a guy to sit with me, and after we build some trust, he's like, "Listen, I'm going to tell you something that you never heard, or like I'm the only one that," and then he'll just tell me what he's on, and I'm like, "Brother, I have the same question. I went through the same thing, and I think part of the hardness, the hardship that comes with the search is the loneliness that comes with it, feeling that you're alone with it,
right?"
And that's like any monster in your head is really a monster in your head when you're alone with it. Like when you kind of like turn on the light, you expose it. You can see like just a little bug. It's a little bug on the light, just like making this big
shadow,
big shadow on the screen. And just turning on the light is just like, hey, you're a little bug. It's okay.
Right.
And then really understanding that we're pretty much made the same. Like the human struggle is very similar. Yes, everyone in their area. But the design is Tashev enosh adaka v'atem shuva b'nei adam. Hashem says in Tehillim, I'm going to throw you down till dichducho shel nefesh. I'm going to throw you into you're going to have your own identity. Every human being feels like he's the center of the world. Like that's you're going to go into an ego. You're going to go into the furthest place, the opposite of the truth, where you're not going to realize there's a story. You're going to realize your story, and you're going to think that's all there is. And from there, you're going to embrace God and embrace the real story and come back to me.
Okay, so that you feel is the central message for you is the search that one is on is not only you're not alone in it, but number two, and this may be putting words in your mouth, but this may be the best part of you.
It's life. It's not only the best part of you, it's life. Life is the journey. You know, we're looking at Torah and mitzvahs as a bunch of separate do's and don't do's is so external. It's understanding that life is, we're here in a search to reach dvekut, to reach unity with Hashem. And all these details, yes, they're a part of this dance. Like, you know, all the sum is greater than the parts, but there are parts, and the parts make the sum. But
right.
But you know, having that vision gives you peace with all the, whether it's mitzvahs, whether it's life issues that are happening to you. Each one of us has a million details in their life that may be different than the other. But embracing that there's a search, and the search is from a place of good, from a loving creator for the purpose of good. Having the ability to feel that really, you know, gives you the ability to just, you know, go through life with joy.
It definitely is a sign of life. It's a sign of life that someone, I think I have the struggle with my kids. It's like on the one hand, I want them to listen to what I'm saying, and on the other hand, I don't want them to listen to anyone. Like I want them to think for themselves. I don't want them to, like, so when I see them push back, there's a part of me that really enjoys it.
Right. Right. Yeah, you know, teaching the kids to be out of the box. So watch out to be out of your box also. Right? Right, but that's really, you know, it's part of giving that permission. In Chinuch, it's giving the right principles. You know, the Alter in Tanya, there's actually there's this very small sefer in Tanya, part of it that's Kuntras Chinuch, and really, it's like Chinuch is really just giving them a Hava and Yira, giving them the fundamental principles. But me predicting for my kid what he's going to be or who he's going to be, maybe just limiting him. Your kid could be 1,000 times higher than you.
Right.
Like, why would you want him to be like me? Don't be just me. Be 1,000,000 times better than me. So I could give you the guiding principles that I believe are the core of life. But then, you know, go ahead. Shock me by how amazing you're going to be.
Right. Maybe this question is too personal, so we can delete it afterwards. But do you have children who are teenagers or older who are going on their own search?
I have 6 kids, and they're all on their search. I mean, today, teenagers already are teenagers from a young age. You know, and I try. My kids are very, very different externally. My oldest son is like Litvish in a Litvish yeshiva, and my second son is full on Breslov, and my third son is just like an everything type of yid. My daughter's Lubavitch, Mamish.
Oh.
And I love it.
And what are the ages of your kids?
My oldest is 16.
Got it.
16 and 14.
Okay. Yeah, because
so I'm saying in that sense, I try in myself to do that avodah, and actually something that helps me a lot is going back to my childhood in that age, understanding like when I see them going through the struggle, I really take time in myself to realize where was I? Like today, I'm talking to them from the height of my age or whatever it is,
right.
And I go back to that place and I realize no, it's okay. And what could I give them, not external but inside, that will be their guiding principles, and they'll take it to far places. I have no idea where my kids are going to end up. I mean, they're going to end up in amazing places, and I'm trying to give them just the raw materials. They're going to build the buildings out of it.
Okay, back to these the wayward youth who are coming your way for on the search. Okay, so the first part of it is that gift of your search is good. It's a sign of life. It's a positive thing. You may feel like you're alone, but you know what I've found is one of the benefits I've had from sharing a lot of details of my own story, and I've shared a lot of very personal details here, is that I hear a lot of other people's very personal details. So I hear the marriages that are struggling. I hear the drug abuse, the addiction, the suicidal ideation, the suicidal attempts. I feel like I've seen like a lot of underbelly of society. And sometimes in places that surprise me or surprise someone else. And in so many different ways. Someone who on the outside appears to be extremely wealthy and the inside is a hiding guy, not a hiding, but they're living in financial ruin and financial mess, or someone who's, the relationship seems positive on the outside, but there's a disaster brewing, or whatever, all sorts of things. So that's in terms of like the not being alone, right? Which is a very, very important part of the journey. I have a coach I worked with who said to me that a lot of people make the mistake of thinking their problems are unique and their gifts are commonplace, when in fact it's the reverse.
Beautiful. I love that.
Their problems are fairly standard. There's like 6 to 8 problems that people run into in life. relationship, health, money, whatever. This says?
There's 10 nisyanis of mankind,
Right, but in terms of our individual gifts, they're all like, billion.
I love that.
Billions of different ones. Yeah. So, okay, so beyond that, in terms of some of the specifics of the search, like I meet myself, I got lost, for example, in the world of sex, right? Pornography and prostitutes and all of that entire world. I'm sure you run into this plenty.
Yeah.
So what do you say to these folk?
I think that from my feeling, the Baal Shem Tov or the Hasidic approach is to, Tachat asher lo avadat et Hashem Elokecha b'simcha b'tuv levav. There's a reason why a person is not happy, and understand our happiness is in exile. We're excited for the wrong things. And the bigger answer is finding meaning in our relationship with Hashem, and finding meaning and joy, meaning redeeming the joy from, if a person is living a dry life, they're excited somewhere. They're getting their thrills somewhere, and in the wrong place, and that's the wrong place, and it's a problem. And the real answer would be, okay, you could be dealing with the problem, but I'm trying to retrieve let's get excited over the right thing. And for me, that's the bigger answer of when you're in love, when your love is invested in the right relationships, it's not going to be fall in love into the wrong relationships. So it's kind of like a bigger answer.
Right. So it's an answer that essentially kind of vanquishes all opponents. We don't have to get into the issue.
Right. Like, it doesn't make a difference what your addiction. So if you're in gambling or you're in porn or you're in drinking, like, okay, that's what you fell into. You could have fallen into that or that or that. But Lemaisa, it's your failure to be in love with the truth and to be excited about the truth. That the truth was, you were never given the truth the right way or presented with it in a dry way. And searching for excitement and joy is a sign of life. Like, if I met a guy that's like has no addictions and no taivas and like he's like a dead fish, like, what am I, like, who are you? Like, you're not alive.
Right.
Like, if I met a guy that has a healthy Yetzer Hara and like, okay, hello, let's talk. Like, if you can have a Geshmaki Yetzer Hara, then that means you're alive. You're searching for joy. You're searching for meaning. That's good. Just understand that path it's the wrong path for meaning. There's a way to get to real joy by finding meaning in life. Life should be fun. Life should be full of joy. Knowing that the Creator put us here for a purpose of becoming, not just knowing this, but really feeling it and living it.
And how does one get in touch with that experience of feeling it and living it? They can be words. I mean, everyone's heard that a million times.
I know. So like this is what I feel in Tzfat often. People come to Tzfat and we have a shul, very, very special shul. And people come and daven, and afterwards it's like, wow. Like, I've had people, like, after a davening walk out and become Baalei Chuva. And it's because there's no class being given. It's just like an hour and a half of just singing and dancing and enjoying and connecting and in a holy way. And the human experience, that's really the key that you're touching on. It's not about words anymore. I mean, there's books, endless books and explanations to this side and to that side. It's about having the ability to experience a joy, and that once you could feel that joy, then that's it. You found something real.
You work with music a lot, right? You're a musician?
I wouldn't say I'm a musician. I play guitar a little bit. My son is my 13-year-old is a guitarist. He teaches me. I have a song that I put out. This song just came through Shir. You were learning Zohar, and we're learning about the worlds, Adam Kadmon and Atzilus. I mean, you learn
A little bit.
and this song just kind of jumped out of the Shir. And I've met boys that learned in the yeshiva. I mean, Tzfas attracts a lot of musicians. It's a lot of holy brothers. So,
But in a nutshell, if you had to put in one line, what you're trying to do is to bring the joy back in Judaism.
yeah, but that's also it's the joy through it's tam. It's flavor through reason. It's really flavor and reason is the same. Not just okay, let's go have fun and sing and dance and kumzitz. That's also true, but let's learn deep Torah that will bring us to understand reason that'll give us the joy. So yes, we're going to also have experiences of joy, and physically enjoying, but also there's what to learn that will bring you to that level.
And I'm sure you run into a lot of people. I mean, I would have put myself in this category at a certain point of those who were beaten with the stick of Torah, so to speak, right? Meaning the language itself, the words itself, the Torah itself, halacha itself, all has so many connotations that there's almost no way in until that gets
100%.
resolved.
Baal Chuvas are easy to inspire. Baal Chuva's he's a customer. He came from a life of no meaning, and come on, everything you tell him, he's drinking it. Give me rabbi, give me more, give me more. For me, the hardest guys to deal with is out of all the Hasidus is probably the Breslovers that go off the derech. Because Rav Nachman the Breslov is he's sitting at the edge, telling you, brother, don't give up. And if you got abused by the Breslov thinking, I don't even know what to tell you. Because you can't even use the deep Breslov Torahs because they're traumatized from them.
Oh, wow.
So you're right. The heavier the religious stick that beat you was, it's harder. In a sense, if the age of Kiruv, was in the 60s and the 70s, the explosion of Baalei Chuva, today it's in reach. Today it's people that grew up in our systems. Yes. If you're in Chabad, wherever you are, and it's and that's right. That's the next level challenge of how do we, sometimes I tell a guy, you didn't do enough drugs to forget everything. Go forget everything first, and then we'll talk. Nebuch, he's still, But that's really, the Gemara says that Reb Zera, before he came to Eretz Yisrael from Bavel, he fasted 100 fasts to forget everything he learned, because he needed the fresh Torah of Eretz Yisrael. So there is that sometimes I see that godly mechanism of people have to totally forget it, and in order to learn Aleph Beis again.
Right. I was speaking with someone a few months ago. We had a conversation. His name is Tzvi Haber. And we've had, in some ways, similar paths, at least, through 12 steps and different addiction. And what we spoke about, I think we both went into tefillin, where we both had to distance ourselves from it completely, because it was associated, in my case, it was associated with guilt. Anytime I missed it, I had guilt. So anytime I put it on, it was to alleviate guilt. I don't want any part of this. So for months and maybe longer, I don't know, maybe years, I just put away. I wanted no part of it. But is that what you mean, kind of by?
So that I believe that distancing was really, I believe that those years you were mamish putting on tefillin, because you were just distancing yourself from it so you could appreciate it. You were traumatized by the externalism of it. You were not hating Hashem or hating tefillin or hating mitzvahs. You just could not bear to be traumatized anymore by whatever those boxes held in your mind. And I believe that distancing you were doing in order to eventually regain a true connection to tefillin, which I hope you have, or you're going to have.
Yeah, I would say now most days I put on tefillin.
Gewaldig.
Yeah, I enjoy it now.
But you have to have that, it has to be bechira.
Yes.
I had guys that, go to mikveh every day, and I meet them one day, and, every day, and one of my good friends, a big tzaddik, he's told me I stopped going to the mikveh. Because it became I want to go to the mikveh because I want to go to the mikveh.
Right.
And not because I want I want it to be a choice. I want it to be a choice of love, a choice of becoming, not automatic. One of the the cycle, the cyclicity of religion is itself is a whole issue.
So how do you, I was just going to ask that, is that there's so much routine, monotony, heaviness, punitive messages that are, all wrapped up with religion. So many of that is antithetical to fun and joy and pleasure. How do you bridge that gap?
Yeah, that you just nailed it. That's the perfect question, because that's really for the cure of Kroivim. That's really the question. How do I get re-excited about something that I got so bored of, which is the truth? So then again, like getting a fresh perspective on life and realizing like this perspective of life as a journey and it's about me and it's about my journey. It's about embracing the ugliness of the animal soul and the beauty of the godliness that we're meant to become. And the path to get there is through tikkun hamidot, is through Torah, it's through mitzvot. I believe that perspective could kind of like get you re-excited about these things as details of a greater journey. It's not about the details anymore. It's about the journey is within. I'm feeling it. Yeah, I know. And I'm feeling my animal soul. I'm feeling my godly becoming. It's relevant to me. It's important to me. And I understand that this is Hashem's gift to us, that through these actions, and it's not just these actions, these are details of the journey. So when it's the journey, the becoming, the dvekos, that's really in mind. And that kind of like could put all these details and mitzvahs in perspective in a new light.
You're saying the momentary questions. I mean, I saw what you did with my own story when I shared about tefillin, is in the context of a journey, those, let's say, year or 2 or 3 years, whatever it was that I was possibly longer, I don't remember, that I didn't put on tefillin or refused to for that reason, right? Like around guilt. You connected it to, meaning when I'm looking at the context of a journey, then, right, at the end of the destination, I may have a much tighter and closer relationship with not only tefillin, but God, but meaning and purpose, that whole becoming that you're speaking about. When I'm looking at it through that lens versus this day,
right,
it gives me a lot more freedom.
So actually, looking back at those times of not putting on tefillin are going to be your, in your life, timeline, are going to be a great part of regaining bechira, of just regaining, like, I could put on tefillin. Yeah.
So let's talk about this idea of bechira. It's an idea I talk about often, is that God gave us free choice and man often wants to take it away from us in some way. But now you're taking it beyond that. You're talking about the importance of man reclaiming our free choice.
Reclaiming choice. Just the ability to choose. I mean, kind of like growing up in the religious box, whatever box you're in, and you're expected to, your area of choice is very limited.
Yes.
Very limited.
So, and that's what I felt like I was doing with tefillin, right? Meaning exactly what I felt like I was doing, where I was, because at a very young age, guilt was programmed into these boxes for me. I didn't really have choice. It's not like a total free choice.
Right.
It was, okay, don't put it on and feel good. Like,
here's your heaping plate of guilt. This is what we do. That's it.
Here's your heaping plate of guilt. And for some people, it wasn't in my case, but I know for many other people, there can be fear associated with it as well, that if I don't do it, there's going to be some sort of punishment that's coming right behind it, right? So this heaping plate of fear and guilt, it's not actual choice to put on tefillin or not put on tefillin. There's a lot on one's scale. So that process of reclaiming choice, does it have to look, I mean, what are you inviting? Are you suggesting people throw away everything for a period of time? I mean, is there another way to do it?
I mean, the Rambam speaks about tikkun hamidot, about a person refining their character. So he speaks about picking an opposite extreme. And one extreme is just as wrong as the other. And there's somewhere in the middle that's going to be the right.
Right.
So sometimes, I mean, you're describing a kind of like extreme reaction to an extreme behavior where you just left it.
Yes.
And now you're finding some kind of healthy way where you're understanding, okay, this is from a loving God, this is for my good, this is for my journey, and you're able to choose it, and therefore it's going to be a positive part of your life.
Yes.
So there sometimes is required to do that. When the extreme was so strong, that's what's gonna happen. That you're gonna just
Like it's the only way to bring balance. Yes.
I wouldn't say, I don't know if it's the only way.
Right.
I'm not like but it's definitely, if you found yourself leaving one extreme to another extreme, understand that you're in the process of finding some kind of middle ground. And what you're doing by taking the other extreme is just as wrong as the first extreme.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but make space for it in your world and understand that you have to do this in order to just reclaim that place of Bechira.
And why is it so important? Meaning, the way a lot of the messaging is, I would say even like in Chabad, right? A lot of the message was a mitzvah for the sake of a mitzvah, even if the person doesn't understand it, right? But
Right.
it does something good, just do it.
Ikar.
Yeah, just put on mezuzahs, put on tefillin, like light candles, just get as many of these in the world. It's good for everyone. Which that can sound like if I get, not that could sound like, that sounds like that if I get a lot of people putting on tefillin, however I figure it out, or if I get a lot of people lighting candles, however I figure it out, that's a good thing. And if they don't, that's a bad thing. There's kind of a binary that it
Right.
feels like. And here you're talking about something that you're almost putting above that, which is Bechira. Why,
So-
where, how?
So, I mean, in general, when we talk about, these things we're talking about are very broad consciousness. A child, for example, you can't tell a kid, like, hey, choose what's right. They're going to choose their animal choice. So when it comes to the chinuch, there is a aspect of yira, and it is about like doing what we're doing not because I don't want to explain it to you, it's because your mind is unable to yet grasp the totality of the process because you're a child. So there is something about just doing things and then eventually getting to, but it's not, the wrong way of doing it is just do it, and that's it. And you're never going to know, but do it, and eventually you'll get to understanding. Right now, your mind can't, and you can't even explain to the kid. Like right now,
no,
you're
we're
a
not
kid.
talking for a 10-year-old. I'm talking for
I believe that what the Rebbe was talking about, Amaisa Ikar, and all these mivtzaim of tefillin and candles, there's something magical about kind of like starting from the end. Of like doing something. I mean, I met numerous amount of people that told me like their life changed the first time they put on tefillin. And that's really that experience part that we're talking about.
right.
It's like, they didn't sit through a class and through like, nothing. They just went straight to they put on tefillin. Like, whoa, I'm involved in something. Or a woman lights Shabbos candles, and that really changed her life. I mean, there's a right and wrong way for everything, and there's magic about it, and there could be trauma with it also.
So let me ask the question differently. Just when it comes to this idea of Bechira, right? Why is it important? Meaning, let's say I'm putting on the hat of my parent, of a parent, me as a parent, not as a pissed off child, but me as a parent, and wanting to teach my children. So, okay, there are certain things that I want to give them in life. And now you're mentioning this idea of Bechira, right? That we should have our choice in what we do. Why is that essential? Why is that even a thing? It feels very much to me. I want to say it feels very much to me, but the way it feels like it to me is I'm not looking for support in a book for it. It feels very strongly to me that that's the way it should be. God gave me free choice. I should have free choice. And that's where decisions should come from. I'm saying let's say from your perspective and the rabbinical, from the rabbi perspective, you said a few times for someone to reclaim their Bechira, or someone to have their Bechira, why is this essential? Why is this an important part of the process when it seems like so much of the messaging that I and others receive is the machine is good too. Meaning if we get you doing it, that's good. That's good too. But they can't both live, right? Sometimes we have to choose one value over the other.
So when we look at life as a journey, so the purpose of the journey is to reach Bechira. The neshama has a certain position, a certain closeness to Hashem, chelek aleha mima'al mamish, and obviously Hashem says, I want you to go into a world and come back from choice. There's relationships that could be amazing, but they can't produce. They're called in the language of Kabbalah, achor be'achor, back to back. A relationship that produces is called panim bepanim, face to face. Like a brother and sister could be a fantastic love, but that they don't give birth. There's no furthering that relationship. Husband and wife is people that never met each other, but when they choose each other, that's an infinite relationship that gives birth. And this is a mashal to the neshama. The neshama before it comes to the world is definitely a certain level of dveikus and essence and connection of whatever it is. But you are what you are. And you can't get to that joy of becoming more than you are. And getting to that joy of becoming more, which is the ultimate design, is to go far, to choose to come near. So that's looking at life as a journey. Why did we come here? We came here to have bechira. We came here to have the distance that will give us the privilege or the ability to choose Hashem.
It's a profound idea. It changes a lot.
For me,
it's certainly not the way that I believe in this strongly. I talk about this idea of choice, but you didn't quote anyone specifically, but you made the case within Jewish.
I can tell you one of the psukim, Moshe Rabbeinu, in Sefer Dvarim, when he's like kind of like wrapping up things for the Jews, he's telling them, many times choose life. That's Hashem is saying, I'm putting you in a world where you're going to have good, bad, ugly, everything. Why? So you could choose life. So this is, for me, it's an
essential component.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh. Okay, and then I see a fineness. So I'm seeing now I'm connecting the blocks on your train, where if I'm choosing, like if I'm really reclaiming choice, then there's the possibility of feeling joy.
Yeah.
If we eliminate choice in the process, it's hard to feel joy.
What would you feel joy of? Just
right.
Yeah, the joy is the joy of becoming.
Okay, so you're setting that as a North Star. The North Star is, what did you say? Who is it? Who says that?
We're human becomings.
No, but you said that someone safer starts off with like to enjoy lisanik, but
the Ramchal. The Ramchal also a tremendous. One of the Sfarim, the sefer that opened me, that really, really brought me back was Derech Hashem. Derech Hashem is a phenomenal. By the Ramchal. The Ramchal was from the Italian school of Kabbalah, also that comes from the Ramak. The whole Italian Mekubalim, and he wrote various heavy Kabbalistic writings, mamash, like spheres and kavanas and kitzur and the Ari and everything. But besides that, he also wrote very popular. His most popular, even in yeshivas, is Mesilat Yesharim, which is also like unbelievable. Just the Akadama. Yeah, like even the Akadama of it, you could just go over it endless amount of times.
Got it. Okay, so the North Star is this idea of taking pleasure, joy, play, fun within Judaism, and the pathway to get there, accept the search you're on. Right? You're on a search, wherever your path is taking you, embrace that step of the process. We don't have to look at, I often say that if you looked at what someone did to become beautiful, right? The picture I have in my head is the cream all over the face with the cucumbers in their eyes, right? It's not a very attractive picture, but the process is one of beauty. Or the same with building something or anything else. It's often, I think it's a saying in Hebrew. I had a friend, Israeli, he used to say this line all the time: you don't show a fool half a job.
Right.
A fool can't understand the job that's
100%
in between. So that's number one. Is this might be halfway towards a job, and the job could be beautified a lot.
I always tell guys, like, put up a sign: we're on construction. We're under construction. Like, don't look at me like, even for yourself.
Yes.
We're under construction. Like, embrace the process that we're
Right.
There's a construction, there's a building, and it's not just me. This is how Hashem, the creator of, this is the ultimate design. Like enjoying that this is the design of the creator. The creator is creating this design. This is how he wants life to happen.
Right. You know, I've thought, sometimes think about politics, and the left often uses a tactic, maybe the right does sometimes too, but often uses a tactic of shame when they want to attack someone. And it could be something the guy did in high school, right? Like, I don't know, you had Kavanaugh, right, who was running for the Supreme Court, and here he is answering for something he did when he was 16. And 90% of the people who are listening to this thing are wondering about their own child, like, where was my teenage years? But
Right.
somehow it's fair game to bring up. And I wondered if that idea itself, the fact that we can take someone's like 15, 16-year-old life and like throw it in their face as answer for it today as a 50, 60-year-old with a family and accomplishments and whatever else it was. Like, if that idea itself is part of like, that's a dark idea.
Well, it depends how you bring it up. You could bring it up in a way of this is, we're all of us in our teenagehood did dumb things. That's in essence, that's what teenagers are, You're making mistakes and not knowing. And what they're doing is more like a Bilam type of
Go ahead.
tactic, which Bilam's genius was the ability to find the one negative in anything and to magnify that and to say that, oh, now you're ugly. Look at that thing you did when you're 16. This is you.
I've
And
never
you're
heard this
still
before.
ugly. And we're saying, no, yeah, I did this when I was 16. You know how many times I've done Chuva for that? And as a matter of fact, the Averas that we did, when a person does Chuva Me'ahava, they become mitzvahs.
Right.
What does that mean? That means that the mistakes that we did and the distance that we had, once we figure out that we're actually loving Hashem, those dark times and those dark events or choices that we did, even b'mezid, they become acts of connection. And Hashem treats them as mitzvahs. So the wrong way to look at them is like to find the bad and say, okay, and to search for the bad and to identify. And that just shows of their bad intention. They're trying to show the world and people are bad.
So in what way specifically did Bilam try to do this?
That was Bilam's genius. He knew, the Gemara says that Yodea Da'at Elyon, there's one moment of anger that the Creator brings in anger to the world. And that was his genius. He knew that moment. And he knew how to find in every nation their one weak bone, their one ugly part. Because we're in this
Everyone
world.
has something.
Everyone
yeah,
has
humans,
for
yeah.
sure. Rav Nachman Rebaslev, one of his deepest teachings, healings to the world is Torah Reish Pebet in the Kutim Aran. It's called Nekuda Tova. Nekuda Tova is he starts off with saying, צריך לדון את כל אדם לכף זכות. אפילו מישהו רשע גמור, צריך לחפש ולמצוא בו איזה מעט טוב. If a person is a total rasha, find that one good thing, and through looking at him through that view, you're going to transform him totally, and he'll become a total Baal Tshuva. And that's the exact opposite Bilam technique. He's not, because our belief is that if man is good, then maybe circumstantially you were involved in who knows what. But I'm not looking at circumstances. I'm looking at essence. And your essence is good. The evil, they want to, that they're talking from their perspective. And they want to show that everything is evil and everything is dark.
Right.
So they could take that one little mistake that a guy did and who knows, and it's so not relevant. Whereas, as a matter of fact, according to the Jewish perspective, if the guy did it, if he did tshuva, then today, that's not even an avera. It could be one of your deepest mitzvahs. It could be like one of your deepest, closest driving points to Hashem was that trauma or was that bad thing that you did, which was horrible. There's no explanation for it. No, we're not beautifying it. But look, you may have taken that to be your ultimate fuel of closeness to Hashem.
Right. That was the fertilizer. That was the crap on the
100%.
Right. The reason I brought it up is because while you're talking about a search, right, that we're on a journey, and then eventually there's a becoming, the thought that, okay, but something from 50 years ago could then be, I have to answer for, that could put a heaviness on the process. Because, yeah, we're under construction, but is there a video camera on me, that's recording something, figuratively or literally, that I need to then answer for 40 or 50 years from today? And it doesn't feel as much like a process. I was just thinking about that idea, but then you say, okay, this is
through the lens of, through that view of tshuva, then what really happened, did it happen? Did you do an Avera or what did you do?
Right.
That's
No, you,
contingent on
said
right,
it's
right
like this
now.
is one of the dark ideas of Bilam.
Yeah, but and it's really the way we're viewing our past in the present. I could take that traumatic event in my life and swear to myself that I'll never be that ugly again, or I'll never allow this to happen in the world again, or whatever that is. That may be one of the strongest factors in a person's good today.
100%. Yeah, and I understand this. I understand this fully from my experience. Like I know practically most people who, if someone reaches out to me, like I remember someone called me for help with their kid, and I said, "Why are you calling me?" And at this point, I wasn't wearing yarmulke, I wasn't practicing. I said, "Why are you calling me?" And I saw on the one hand they were struggling with the fact that their kid wasn't religious, but I was trying to point out, but you're calling me, like you're calling me for help, right? And you're calling me for help because it was a journey that I went on, and then I was able to get to the other side of a certain place. And today you're recognizing that, and you're calling me, but you're not allowing your own child the benefit of that journey. The moment they step, one foot to the left, all of a sudden all hell breaks loose.
Well, if you told him that, then that's why he called you, because he needed the help. It's very often that the parents need the help, not the kid.
Yes.
The kid is actually on a real journey to find himself, and the parent is just confused with my identity and what do I tell my friends and how do I deal with the shame. And I thought I was going to market my kid as such a success and talk about him here and there, and it's about me. It's about the selfish product that I thought was my child. So very often the parent needs that. It's really the parents and the surrounding that need to respect the search. Respect the search, embrace it, understand that it's godly, understand that this is what life is. And if your kid's on a wild search, and yes, we're in wild times.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, so if you have a wild searcher, then deep breathe and start loving that kid and start loving the creator for his design. If you have issues with him, you're having issues with the one above, with the creator, with the designer of life. Because this is how he's designing the search.
Right. And how does one know if they've arrived at this space of pleasure and joy in God? Before I go there, the concept, you even used it here in this podcast, the concept like Yiras Hashem, right? How does that fit into the idea of joy and pleasure? Just that concept could be very...
Yeah, Yiras Hashem is actually like a very loaded concept and could be, Yira, even translated to English, it's even worse. Like, are they trying to like awe, but what's awe? Like, come on, would you have awe of something? Of what? What is this nice word? Yira and Ava are extreme yesodot in mitzvot. The Zohar Kadosh describes Yira and Hava as two wings, Tren Gadfin, two wings, two deep attitudes that help a person fly and rise and go on their journey. The wings, is and these are things that we need with us our entire life. We can't only work with love. You can't only be in that broad, I'm choosing, because in the becoming, in the human becoming, we go through many stations of 10 trials. Even the greatest person finds himself in darknesses, not because they lost what they had, it's because you go from one level. At the next level you're going to enter, you're a rookie. You finished school, you're going to high school, you're just, wherever, at any level that you're going to go in, you're going to a bigger game, but you're going in from the bottom. So we're not always going to be in that vast, expanded consciousness of like, I'm in love and I'm doing things out of choice. There's sometimes that we do things because it's the right thing to do, even though I'm not feeling it now. But the right attitude is not, it's not a blind, like, I'm not feeling it now, but I remember that when I felt it. And that gives me the ability to, even right now, I'm not feeling it all. I'm going to stick to the right choice and do the right thing. And that also comes from the understanding of the journey, is that the journey takes us to stations. And even if you max that one station, that's beautiful. You will get ready for the next one. And the next one you're going to go in, and it's going to take you time to max that one. And you're going to go to the next one, those stations of life. So Yira is always going to be necessary as another wing. You can't fly with one wing. You need to fly with two wings. You have to, you can't only fly with the Yira.
Right.
You can't just do things because that's what we do. It's, we say in Shemona Esrei,
And we're not always going to be inspired.
Right. It's okay, 100%. Look, the greatest, Moshe Rabbeinu, people think he was flying high. 38 years, Hashem didn't talk to him in the desert. Moshe Rabbeinu spent 10 years in a dungeon. His father-in-law, when he met him, was like, hey, what's going on? Threw him in the dungeon for 10 years. The greatest people, Avram Avinu spent time in a cave. People spend time in caves. Caves is not just, holes in mountains. Caves could be a room, could be a dark depression. It could be people spend time in these places.
Right, like a metaphorical cave.
Yeah, for sure. Great people go through deep challenges of becoming. Not like, and we're not going to always be there in that place of choice of like, wow, Creator, I see your plan. I love your plan. I'm choosing to love you. That's a great place to be in. But sometimes there's Yira. Sometimes it's like, you're the king.
The discipline of it.
Yeah, Avinu, Malkeinu.
Right.
Avinu is like very Heimish.
Yes.
You're sitting, you take off your couch, you just sit on the couch, take off your shoes. Malkeinu, it's like you stand there, you don't breathe.
Right.
So what is Hashem to us? He's Avinu Malkeinu. And in this human experience, we have to have that because, again, when we embrace the journey that we're in and understand that this is how it is, we're going to go through stations of knowing Him more and knowing Him less, being more connected and less connected. And therefore, these two wings, these two attitudes are going to be necessary for us our entire life.
Right. So I guess my question ceases to exist because my question about Yira, or your answer is my question about Yira, it's really only a question when the wing of Ava is clipped.
Right.
But when the wing of Ava exists, then the Yira is...
When there's a healthy Yira, there's a balance.
Right.
As a matter of fact, the Alter Rebbe in Tanya speaks about Yira in its highest form is a Hava. They're actually kind of like the same because we could look at the two wings of the bird, but like the bird is just flying. For him, it's just
right.
just going up and down. It's for him, it's just organic. It's one thing going, and that Yira brings a Hava, and the Hava brings to Yira. It's not two separate things.
Okay. So where do you see this? Where do you see this going? I don't know if I imagine we're in interesting times. Like from a Jewish perspective, right?
Imagine, open the window, open the, or whatever, of course.
But the reason I say I imagine is because maybe 30 years ago, 40 years ago, people also felt that way. And 100 years, like maybe at every single time people feel.
I mean, Mashiach times have been, Rav Chaim Vital describes in the Akdamat Eitz Chaim, the revelation of the Arizal was like, good morning, Mashiach. That's, Mashiach is here, and the Messianic thinking, the redemptive thinking, and that's why Hashem sent that result to the world, and the Ramak and the Kabbalah, and that's why He unleashed the light of the Zohar, because the time is here. So these times have been going, and I think like with everything, you look at the speed up of technology and evolution of man.
Yes.
The Chitzonius clearly resembles the Pnimius. There's a famous line of Rabbi Satmar when he came to America. So he told someone, he said, what in Europe took a kid 18 years to see, over here it takes 18 minutes. So he recognized, today,
that was when?
That was then. It was before WhatsApp and before smartphones, before anything. But today it's like, we're in light years already.
Yes.
So it's clear that the external worlds and the internal worlds are one. The branches and the roots is just part of one tree.
Right.
So we may not be seeing the heavens, but we're seeing the earths. And if we're seeing Malchusa de Ara, ke Malchusa de Rakia. The Gemara teaches us that the kingdom of the earth is like the kingdom of the heaven. So the shifts that happen down here are happening in there, up there. So we're seeing things develop here in just crazy ways. Like there's new things that exist today that didn't exist. Like last week I sat in a flying car last week.
Neat.
Flying car,
it was flying.
It wasn't flying, not yet. But hopefully next time I get there, it'll be flying. But you understand that these are things that people didn't dare to even imagine, and these are things that are on the market. You'll be able to buy this thing in your house in a year or two. If we spoke about 50 years ago about a piece of plastic that you could see another person as you see it, people will tell you you're delusional.
Right.
And these are realities that we have today. So things are clearly on a speed, on a roll. And this is just an indication of what's happening inside, you know. And again, zooming out, when I trust that it's all a journey of becoming that the Creator's breathing forth. So if it's speeding up, He's speeding it up.
Right.
And what's speeding up is good, because whatever happening is good. It's all for the good. So the revelation of the good is going faster and faster. Now, the Chafetz Chaim, when he spoke about the train, he was so excited about it. Like, this is a clear sign of Mashiach coming faster. The world is moving, people have to meet faster. Human beings have to meet faster. From the train, it went to planes, and it went to jets, and it went to...
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but like, you know, there's many things that have to happen. If we just let them happen with horse and buggy, this would take another million years.
Right. I felt like COVID did that. Like a lot of things that were happening, it just
COVID was a total Mashiach boost. Like, businesses opening, closing. I have friends that were, you know, normal businessmen that ran all kinds of corporations that became life coaches, and people that changed their life. People were forced to, you know, the world is mama's changed from that, and it clearly wasn't a decision of people. It's a part of the journey. So if you're looking at the details, it's very easy to get confused or lost. But when you zoom out and realize that life is it's one. Kulo echad, kulo tov. Life is a journey of one by a good Creator. So what's happening is good. And that gives us also forgiveness for the difficulties and the challenges on the way, because, any great person or any great thing has ups and downs in his challenge.
Yes.
But when you just, you know, embrace the process. So, you know.
How do you measure success in your work?
In my work with?
You're coming out here, you're speaking, you're sharing a message.
It's funny because actually getting people or friends to redefine success for me is like ends up being one of my main topics of conversation, because if in America success is how much money did you make today, or the ridiculous line that time is money, ridiculous. Time is so much more, and life is so much more. Money is a factor in life, one of many, 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 many. I mean, how many rich people do you know that have issues that money cannot solve?
Yes. From
medical to shlom bayis to kids to mental to who knows what. Really redefining success based on this perspective of life as a journey. So success would be what's the tachlis? In the language of Rav Nachman would be tachlit. What's your point of destination? What's your point of, how close are you to your goal? What's your goals? Mm-hmm. So, you know, kind of like, you know, if a person could have an issue with they think their issues are with different things, but really it's if you redefine success. And success is remembering that we're on a journey of becoming, and me becoming more godly. Like, success is Tomer Devora. Like, it's us graduating our raw animal self and becoming godly. So if you had a challenge today with someone and you were able to shut up at an argument and not answer them, or able to find compassion in you instead of bashing them, that's success for me. And by a person being able to view success and celebrate success that way, I think that's amazing, because your success is not how much money did you make today or how good did your company do. It could be a part of it and go out. Yeah. All Yidden should be matzliach and do well, but that's not success, because that's not the point of life. That's not the tachlas achayim. Tachlas achayim is really an amazing becoming. We're here to embody godliness and to become our kavod to godliness. Like, imagine a world of people that learn Tomer Devora and practice Tomer Devora. Unbelievable. Imagine the level of godliness that could then rest in the world. Unbelievable. That's Shechina.
I'm thinking if my question was answered, because I heard what you said, but I'm thinking. So let me ask it again. So you come out here on a trip.
Yeah.
You speak, you share, you're talking on this podcast, another one. How do you know if you hit the mark or didn't hit the mark? Like, how do you know? Meaning, there's some, let's call it, I have a friend. He helps people in different ways, right? Speaking to them, but he doesn't charge. And he says it always confuses people that he doesn't charge. He thinks people think there's a catch to it or something like that. Like, people don't know. So And that was the case when I first began talking to him. I used to talk to him regularly, different insights. He has some psychedelic experiences. So like he helps people, like he struggled a lot entering that world. So he helps people with, understanding that world and this world and how to integrate the two is the way he'd call it. So when I mentioned payment to him a few times, he said, I do charge. I get paid in spiritual currency, like that. So like, what's the spiritual currency that you're transacting in, so to speak? You're coming out here, you have a family, you have a school, and you say, okay, I'm going to come out here, I'm going to speak, I'm going to share my message. How do you measure success? How do you know if it was a good trip or a bad trip?
So when I sit with people and sometimes they'll share their struggles and reshifting their point to find the tachlis. You're maybe struggling with your business or with whatever it is, but reshifting it that the tachlis of life is in us. When I could get that message across, I feel successful.
Oh, got it.
Because that's really a redeeming message. That's really, instead of fighting with the outside world, it's owning your world and understanding what is life about. And I guess you have a very good way of defining things and like even putting my thoughts in, and kind of like me going through my journey. I'm seeing it through the lens of our conversation now. Yes. Seeing where my journey is helpful for other people's journey and the contribution of my struggles and my becoming and helping another person. That's really my joy and my gain and my I guess my mission in all this.
Beautiful. I had a thought and it escaped me. So okay, good. I hope that you're able to reach many people.
Amen.
With this,
Amen.
With the message. Oh, you are familiar with the writer? Not a Jewish writer. Maybe he's Jewish. I don't know if he is or not. David Hawkins. I think his name is David Hawkins. Wrote a book, Power Verse Force.
So even though
Maps of Consciousness.
So my English my dialogue is pretty American, but I'm fully Israeli.
Fully Israeli.
And most of my reading I do in Hebrew.
Gotcha.
So
I don't know if he has anything translated.
Actually, that's one of the even Sfarim that were written. And I read like even Aryeh Kaplan.
Yeah.
Wrote his English stuff is so much better than the Hebrews are more like a source, and the English is like more like visionary. So yeah, there's something about English Sfarim that's I hope to get it from the sources, but I feel like I'm missing out.
Right. No, it's not Sfarim. This is just it's books. What do you call it? The wisdom of the nations, so to speak. So he talks about. He's a very spiritual writer. He talks about. Like at first we value ourselves by what we have, then by what we do, and then by like who we are, like how we're being or becoming, like that.
Right.
So you're kind of like talking that idea of.
So imagine like helping someone, like how many people actually make it past that first stage, like valuing what you have. I believe that most of the external world is just still
there.
Yeah,
yes.
It's still there. So imagine how much joy you could have when you could get someone to have a broader perspective. It's not just what you have, but it's really what you are and really connecting to your being. That's really a inner joy. It's not like, okay, I just got a new toy. It's like I managed to accomplish something. It was important to me. It's important to creation. It really makes the world a better place of more. This allows more godliness and more shechina and more kedusha and more good to come to the world.
Well, I'll share some of his idea, like one of his concepts, which seemed to connect very much like Tzaddikim. I think it was from him. So he does a lot of like muscle testing to arrive at different like states of consciousness. And he has a map of consciousness that he's developed. And he says that a society that descends below a certain level, then they kind of spiral downwards. Okay. And if you're above a certain level, you spiral upwards.
Okay.
And kind of the state of being, like the term that he used for that state of being that allows someone to spiral upward is a state of courage. And the state of being where the spiral starts downward is a state of pride. And pride eventually leads to anger and descends into that way. So courage is what allows us to lift. So he said, which was kind of interesting. So he says, like, this society, let's say, is at a state of courage. But okay, how is that? Most people you meet are seemed to be not in that state at all. So he has a complicated mathematical formula, but it's that if there are certain people in the society that are operating at much higher levels, then they draw up much more people. It's not like a mathematical equation like 1-to-1. Like you say, okay, this person is at this level and this person is, let's say one is, he uses numbers, let's say one's at 300, the other one's at 150, so you meet in the middle, 225. It's like, no, if there's one, let's say, that's operating at 300, they can drag up a whole
Yes.
group of people. So I think it was him which said that in certain cities, which was a lot of crime, they would take a few people who are at very high levels of consciousness, just put them in the city and just like meditate here.
That's
So,
wow.
yeah.
That's good. There's actually Talmidei Baal Shem Tov that, like when it comes to like how to do kiruv, there were Talmidei Baal Shem Tov that mamash went out there and like Moshe Lev Sassover would like go down into the bars and hang out with guys and mamash pull guys from, and there were Talmidei Baal Shem Tov that would just go into cities and just go into a room and do yichudim
In that
just
place.
a week and the entire raise the entire country. Right. As a matter of it's 100%. As even connection to tzaddikim, it's not always, especially in our generation. The Gemara says that every generation has tzaddikim like Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Every generation. But like in last week's parsha in Tetzaveh, it doesn't mention Moshe Rabbeinu's name one time, or the Megillas Esther. It doesn't mention Hashem's name at all. And there's times that there are tzaddikim, but they're hidden. And the Chidush Arim writes that a person should connect himself to the tzaddik, whoever he is, wherever he is. Like just me, wherever I am, knowing that there's a elevated person with an elevated consciousness, I'm joining him, I'm being in love with him, I'm being unified with him. And that's not just like him coming down to me, but me going up to him. And that's the ability of wherever you are to be in tune with that reality and, allow yourself to go up.
Right. So I imagine if that can bridge space, that can bridge time as well. So going back to where this conversation started with the Ramak.
The Ramak.
Yeah. Which is interesting that somehow he's coming into my life and his teachings, because a lot of Chabad people are very afraid of learning anything outside of the Rebbe or Chabad.
I know. That's why I don't learn Tanya with Lubavitchers. I don't learn the Kutim around with Breslovers. And because you're right, it's that's a gullus, that's an external. It's like the Rebbe wanted Yidden and Reb Nachman wanted Yidden. This is their way of getting Yiddishkeit and getting. You're right. It's part of the pain of galut that we're in, of only seeing the external and not 100%.
Right.
But
I guess there is the danger. In recovery, 12 steps use the term sponsor, right? So they say anytime there's an ism, right? ISM is I sponsor myself.
Right.
Right. So like there is the danger. I heard Nir Manusi talk about this. I don't know if you know Nir. He's a student of Rav Yitzchak Ginsburg.
Oh wow.
Folks, he was here a little bit ago. What he attempts to do is take Rav Ginsburg's messages and make it more understandable. So he says that he talks very cryptic, very dense. He attempts to make it more understandable. And it's a way of explaining things in new ways. But I heard a talk of his where he spoke about the kind of the risk of jumping too quickly. Meaning if someone's like on the search and you're taking a little bit from everyone, then you end up sponsoring yourself, so to speak. Right. Versus eventually, but then what he said, when someone goes deep into one and then says, okay, like this is my one, then he understands the depth of the one. Then when he goes to everyone, then he understands the depth and the richness within one. So I just thought to share the other side of it, at least from his perspective, which is the risk of.
No, obviously, it would be gewaldig to, like even in the old Breslovers, I had this chus to hang out with some real big tzaddikim in Breslov and speaking about how things were once. And they told me that the old, they would learn every year one Chassidish sefer for the entire year. Like 1 year Noam Elimelech, and 1 year Shem Yishmuel, and 1 year Marva Shemesh. Like they would mamish learn everyone and everything. You're right, but if a person could have one connection, like be connected to the Rebbe and his vision, and then go into the world, that would be ideal.
Right.
But it's that would definitely be the highest level. 100%.
Yeah. Right. That's what he was talking about, like bridging those two of having the one and the many versus only the one or always.
So I'm talking about a generation where there's not one or many. Where just like the we could see a parsha where the name of the tzaddik is hidden, where there's and the ability to just be in love with the concept, or a person's you're somewhere where there's no tzaddikim around you, just being in love with this consciousness that's in the world right now, knowing that the Creator puts tzaddikim in every generation, and these tzaddikim before a person is davening, to say, "Areini mekasher atzmi," I'm connecting myself in this davening to all the tzaddikim in this generation. And I know that the real tzaddik, that is for sure the ultimate love of every yid, I know that he's thinking about me right now. Like mama, stop and like love him, and I know that he's loving me.
You're saying someone specific or just the
No,
concept?
I don't know who he is.
You know who he is. You
No,
just
I
know
have no
this
idea
one
who he is.
exists.
Right. I have no idea who he is, because we're holding it at this time that where things are hidden. If in the Megillas Esther, Hashem's name was hidden, and that was the 70-year galus that brought about the Beis Hamikdash Hasheni. We're talking about a 2,000-year galus that's going to bring about the third Beis Hamikdash. There's an absolute hiding right now in the world.
I know you're not a historian, you said earlier, but is there a parallel in Jewish history where there's not an obvious leader like there is not today?
Am Yisrael went through a lot of ups and downs. I mean, look at the Nevi'im. There were times where Am Yisrael was in a horrible state, where the entire nation was totally disconnected. The Navi says, En melech be'Yisrael, Isha yashar be'einav yaseh. There was a time where the Navi writes, these days there's no king, each guy to his own. Each guy was making his own. So these times existed. But usually the Arizal teaches that the darkness is always a part of a process.
Right, nice matter
of light. So this horrible darkness that took place of Haman and before Purim was the Nasira, was the cutting off process to go from achor to panim bepanim. Am Yisrael being in this state of galus of 70 years, they couldn't go back to build the second Beis Hamikdash in that galus mindset. They had to come back like fresh and unified and connected, and that's what all the Nevi'im tried to do, and they weren't able to do. So Hashem says, okay, I'm gonna bring the big dog out, and he's gonna bark, and you guys are all gonna unify, and that connect your heart, and then connecting your heart, okay, now let's go build the second Beis Hamikdash. So that darkness was a necessary stage of, get rid of the relationship you had till now, because this was good up to now, but where we're going, we need to be on a much deeper level of unity. So therefore, sometimes it's that those darknesses are always in that twilight, always getting us ready. Like, get rid of what was, because we're going somewhere much better, much deeper. And to go there, we need to be totally unified. So either we get it together, or something's going to happen to get us together. But we got to be in a much deeper connection than we were till now.
Right, I hear that. Okay, final thoughts? Don't have to be. It can just be.
I actually really appreciate it. I enjoy your organized kind of thinking, and I give you a bracha, my blessing, friend to friend, to continue inspiring the search and hosting individuals that are real and that are doing good in the world and that are helping our beautiful nation get to the next stage and go through this challenging time that we're in. Whether it's from the 60s or now, but it's definitely challenging times. And I think that what you're doing is part of the cure. So be blessed and keep on.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope to continue to be part of the solution and not the not the problem. And thank you. Like I said, you were recommended many times. I'm glad I trusted it, and we sat down together. And if I'm able to this evening, I'll pop in at the house some more, find out if you're really a musician and hiding. All right. Thank you so much.
A pleasure.